What a wild start to the week for Boston sports fans. Patriots with a blowout win that finally let people breathe on a Sunday. Red Sox locking in that postseason berth and now headed to face the Yankees. And today, NBA Media Day officially kicking off. The basketball content floodgates are about to open, and we're diving right in, starting with one of the biggest bombshells to hit Celtics Nation during this otherwise hopeful stretch. Al Horford is officially a Warrior. Yeah, Big Al, the heart and soul of Boston's front court over the last few seasons, has taken his talents to the Bay Area. And it's one of those moves that makes you blink twice, not because it was totally shocking, but because of what it means for him, for the Celtics, and honestly for the Golden State Warriors. Let's break this down. Golden State, a team that already felt like it was reaching the ceiling of its aging core, decided to double down on experience. We're talking Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Jimmy Butler, and now adding Al Horford to the mix. This isn't a youth movement. This is a let's squeeze every ounce of playoff juice we have left type of roster building. But it's not just Horford. Golden State was busy. They also added DeAnthony Melton. Gary Payton II is back, and they signed a couple of second-round picks. But still, no resolution yet with Jonathan Kuminga. That situation is hanging in the balance. And with the team's current cap space, that rumored 3-year, $25 million offer might already be off the table. It's fascinating to see how they're moving pieces around, knowing how deep the Western Conference is. Back to Al, though. Celtics fans can breathe easy on this one. It doesn't feel like betrayal. This isn't the Philly move all over again. That one stung. That one felt like a guy chasing a bag with a rival. This time feels different. Horford gave Boston everything. Came back for a second stint, anchored the defense, helped raise Banner 18, and now, at the tail end of his career, he's earned the right to make this kind of move. He's got maybe 1 or 2 years left, and if Golden State can manage his minutes, no back-to-backs, keep him fresh, 20 to 25 minutes a night, he's still got real value. For a team that lost Kevin Looney and is light on bigs, Horford's veteran presence and playoff poise could make a difference. The love for Al poured in across social media. You had teammates like Drew Holiday, Peyton Pritchard, and Sam Hauser all sharing tributes, echoing the sentiment that Horford's time in Boston was special. He posted a heartfelt message on Instagram thanking the city, the organization, and the fans, talking about how raising Banner 18 will forever hold a special place in his heart. You can't hate on that. You can't. Boston got the best of Al Horford, and now he gets one more shot at chasing a ring before hanging it up. No love lost, only respect. But let's shift gears because while we say goodbye to one Celtic legend, another storyline is heating up in a way that's got Celtics fans cautiously, very cautiously, optimistic. Jason Tatum is back on the court. After months of silence, rehab updates, and rehab speculation, the YouTube clip dropped, Tatum moving, getting jumpers up, going through workouts. And look, it wasn't much, just some practice footage, but for a fan base that's been emotionally prepping to go a full season without him, it hit different. We've known this was going to be a slow recovery. It'll be around February when he hits that 8-month post-surgery mark. March will be 9. That's when a return becomes a realistic conversation, but the Celtics have to be in position for it to even matter. That's the key here. If the team is floundering, if they're outside the playoff picture, there's zero reason to rush Tatum back. But if they're hovering around the 6th or 7th seed, and Tatum is physically and mentally ready, clear to play full minutes, not under load management or minute restrictions, then we're talking about a real potential playoff impact. But Tatum himself said it best in an interview with Sports Illustrated. When asked about his return, he said, "I haven't said I'm coming back, and I haven't said that I'm not." And he went on to talk about how he needs something to aim at, something to push toward in his rehab. That's just smart. You need a goal. Even if he doesn't play this year, he's keeping his eyes on that possibility because it keeps him focused. It's about process. It's about staying locked in. And this is where it gets tricky, because the Eastern Conference, it's a mess. It's wide open. There are some solid teams at the top, but almost every contender has major question marks. Cleveland is dealing with a laundry list of injuries. Max Struss out, Darius Garland uncertain, and they lost key depth pieces. They're relying on Lonzo Ball, who hasn't played meaningful minutes in years. The Knicks are steady, sure, but nothing unbeatable. Philly? Embiid's status is murky. Paul George might not be ready. They've already lost key rotation guys. Miami is in chaos. Tyler Herro gone. Rozier inconsistent. The bench is a mess. The Bucks are starting Kuzma and Kevin Porter Jr. Come on. Detroit, Orlando, Toronto all have talent but feel unproven. Brooklyn is a youth project. Charlotte and Washington are already cooked. So you look at the Celtics, and suddenly the idea of them sneaking into the playoff mix doesn't feel so far-fetched. The problem? Depth. One more injury, and the whole thing falls apart. That's the razor's edge this roster is walking. Jaylen Brown misses time? Toast. Derek White sits for a month? Toast. Even bench guys like Peyton Pritchard or Nemias Quetta, if they go down, it gets sketchy fast. But if they stay healthy, if JB plays like a top 10 guy, if Simons can be that electric six-man off the bench, if Quetta really is the hidden gem they hope he is, and if Tatum does come back in full force, then this team becomes dangerous. It's hope. That's the dangerous part, because it was easier when we all accepted this as a rebuilding year. Sit back, enjoy the youth movement, let Simons and Pritchard chuck up threes, let JB go off for 50 now and then, and just keep stacking lottery odds. But now we're dreaming again. Now we're watching YouTube clips and imagining JT checking in late February, the crowd going wild, and suddenly the Celtics are the scariest 7 seed the East has seen in a while. It's hope, man, and it's a trap, but it's also what being a fan is all about. And speaking of Simons, let's talk sixth man of the year. The early odds are out, and let me just say this, DeAndre Hunter being the favorite is wild. First off, the guy is probably going to start, so let's pump the brakes. Peyton Pritchard's name is floating up there too, but same issue. He might be starting for Boston, and if he is, that takes him out of the running, which brings us back to Simons. Anthony Simons is sitting at plus 1,500 on FanDuel, and that is very interesting, because if he really is coming off the bench, and if the Celtics are competitive, he's going to be putting up numbers. We're talking volume, highlight plays, instant offense. And you know voters love a narrative. Simons as the unexpected spark plug for a Tatum-less Celtic squad, that's a story voters can get behind. Some of the other names in the mix, Naz Reid, McCain, Jordan Clarkson, Josh Hart. They're all solid players, but they come with question marks. Reid might start more games. McCain is already hurt. Clarkson feels like he's past that breakout phase. Josh Hart, maybe, but it depends how deep the Knicks rotation gets. And then there's a real sleeper pick, Santi Aldama in Memphis. With that front court in shambles, Aldama could play a huge role early. Don't be shocked if that name starts popping up more often in fantasy circles. And if you're one of those fans still trying to make sense of the Celtics roster construction heading into this new season, you're definitely not alone. There's this weird energy surrounding the team right now, like a mix of uncertainty, cautious optimism, and that ever-present Boston skepticism. It all starts with figuring out the backcourt rotation, because that's where things could really swing one way or another. Peyton Pritchard has been generating a lot of buzz, and for good reason. The guy's been grinding for years, waiting for a real opportunity to take over a starting role, and now it feels like that chance is right in front of him. He's got the motor, he's got the confidence, and he's clearly earned the trust of the coaching staff. If he starts, and it looks like he might, that reshuffles everything in the rotation. That could push Simons into a permanent sixth-man role, which honestly might be a blessing in disguise. He's the kind of player that thrives when he's unleashed without having to run the offense or worry about playmaking for others. Just let him cook. But the real wild card in all this is Nemias Quetta. The Portuguese big man is getting thrown into conversations that no one expected a few months ago. Now, with Horford gone and questions about the frontcourt depth, Quetta is suddenly being viewed as a potential starter. And not just for lack of options. There's real belief he might be ready to contribute. It's a massive leap, but he's shown flashes of being an elite rebounder, an energetic rim protector, and someone who could thrive in pick-and-roll sets. If he can hold his own defensively and give 20 solid minutes a night, that changes the entire outlook of the team. Because think about it. If Quetta works out and Pritchard starts strong and Simons becomes that dynamic scorer off the bench, you suddenly have a team with an actual foundation. You've got Jaylen Brown leading the charge, you've got Derek White doing all the little things, and you've got just enough shooting, defense, and hustle to compete on a nightly basis. That's not a tanking team. That's not a lottery team. That's a team that can win 45 games. Maybe more. And look, it's not just the fans talking themselves into hope. The players are feeling it too. You can see it in how they're carrying themselves, the tone they've had during off-season interviews, the way they're hyping each other on social media. This team knows that they're being counted out. They know that without Tatum, the narrative is that they're toast. And they're using that. They're leaning into that underdog energy. You even saw it with how they responded to Horford's departure. The love was immediate and real, from Drew Holiday to Sam Hauser, because it wasn't just about losing a teammate. It was about understanding the legacy he leaves behind and the responsibility they now carry. Horford was the anchor. He was the guy who held things together during tough stretches. Now, someone else has to step into that role. And if this team is going to overachieve, it's going to take that collective leadership. Not just one guy trying to be the hero, but a group effort every single night. And then you've got the schedule. Let's not forget how brutal the early stretch of the season is. If the Celtics come out of that first month hovering around .500 or better, that's a win. Because once you get into the softer parts of the calendar, when teams start dealing with injuries, when the standings get tighter, that's when you can really start making up ground. That's when you start scoreboard watching every night and thinking, man, we're only a few games out of the fourth seed. And if we're being honest, there's a very real scenario where the Celtics are in that 5 or 6 range by February. If that happens, and Tatum is cleared, the question becomes, do you bring him back? And not just because the fans want to see him. Not just because it would be a great story, but because you might actually have a shot. If Tatum comes back in game shape, fully cleared, no limitations, and you're heading into the playoffs with a top 10 player rejoining your squad, that's dangerous. That's not just fun. That's a problem for the rest of the East. Of course, none of this works if the team doesn't stay healthy. The margin for error is razor thin. One extended injury to Brown or White, and it could all fall apart fast. That's the part that keeps bringing people back to reality. It's fragile. It's a house of cards. But there's also something exciting about that. Because when you have no expectations, every win feels massive. Every run feels like a miracle. And every big night from Simons or Quetta or Pritchard becomes part of a bigger story, one that no one saw coming. Now, we've talked about Simons as a six-man candidate, but that conversation only matters if the Celtics are competitive. Same goes for any awards buzz around Jaylen Brown or Derek White. You want JB in the MVP mix? You want White on an all-defensive team? That starts with winning. That starts with showing the league this team isn't folding just because Tatum's out. And that's exactly the kind of fuel this group seems to thrive on. The us against the world mentality has never fit a team better than this current Celtics roster. But before we continue, please remember to subscribe to the channel and give the video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest news about the Boston Celtics. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments as well. In what is quickly becoming the hottest gossip in the NBA, the Boston Celtics are reportedly shaking the league to its core. Sources whisper that the Celtics are eyeing not just one, but a double blockbuster edition that could redefine their championship ambitions. Kevin Durant and Zach LaVine. Yes, you read that correctly. Rumors are swirling through social media, sports bars, and locker rooms alike, suggesting Boston could be about to pull off a seismic, last-minute coup. For years, the Celtics have been hovering near the top of the Eastern Conference, but injuries and a few near misses have prevented them from fully cementing their dominance. Now, with whispers of Durant's potential move to Boston, fans are imagining a team where the sleek, lethal scoring of Durant could blend seamlessly with Jason Tatum's versatility and Jaylen Brown's athleticism. If true, this wouldn't just be a signing, it would be a statement. Adding Zach LaVine into the mix would make the scenario almost fantastical. Known for his high-flying dunks and perimeter shooting, LAVINE could give the Celtics an offensive dimension that rivals the flashiest teams in the league. Imagine the spacing, the pick-and-roll options, and the sheer spectacle of a Celtics lineup capable of stretching defenses to their breaking point. Rumor has it that front office discussions have been intense, with trade talks and salary cap gymnastics happening behind closed doors at lightning speed. Of course, no deal has been confirmed, and as with any rumor of this magnitude, skepticism runs high. Fans are torn between disbelief and exhilaration, flooding forums and social media with theories about who might be traded or what Boston would have to give up to make such a historic acquisition possible. Yet the mere mention of DURANT and LAVINE in Celtics green has sparked feverish excitement across the NBA world. Analysts are scrambling to calculate potential lineups, playoff impacts, and how this duo could shift the balance of power in the East. While the Celtics have remained tight-lipped, insiders suggest a deal could emerge before the trade deadline, creating one of the most jaw-dropping storylines of the season. Whether it's fantasy or impending reality, the rumor alone has ignited a frenzy. Boston might not just be chasing a championship. They could be redefining what it means to be a super team. The league is watching, and fans everywhere are holding their breath. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Boston Celtics, please subscribe to our channel and give the video a like. We always appreciate your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.